So it looks like folks are just joining us. So we'll give it a couple of minutes. As you're all coming into the room, feel free to answer one of our questions that we have up on the slide. In the chat, you can just enter any answer down below. And we're just curious to get to know people who attend our weekly Wednesday webinars. So feel free to share something with us down in the chat. Ailey says they love beeswax wraps. They reduce waste and help preserve food longer than traditional food wraps. That sounds like an amazing reusable product. Very cool. Alex says, seems simple, but my water bottle is something I can't live without. It's also the only way I stay hydrated enough. That is very true. Yeah, I would be lost without my water bottle as well, Alex. So that's a good one. So we'll just give folks another minute to join us. But in the meantime, as I said, feel free to answer one of the questions we have up on the slide. Just a little icebreaker to get to know our audience and to get you thinking about sustainability. I've mentioned it before, but the wildlife species I'd love to see in its natural habitat would be a narwhal up in the North Arctic Ocean. I think that would be a pretty incredible voyage. Okay, well, we're just a couple minutes after 2, so I think we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to our weekly Wednesday webinar here at Green Key Global. My name is Tyler, and I am the Member Services Coordinator, and I'm glad that you could join us today. We have a couple of other people with us that I'll be introducing. We have Lee with us today, our communications specialist. We also have Alex joining us today. He's the Sales and Account Manager from Bullfrog Power. So today on our agenda, we're going to be talking a bit about Earth Month at your hotel uh, and talking about our monthly themes. We're going to do a Green Key Global overview. We'll talk a little bit about benefits of being a Green Key Global member. We'll talk about online travel agents and the recognition that your property gets as a member. We'll talk about the validity of sustainable claims, how it works, an assessment and audit process walkthrough, Green Key Global developments and questions and discussion. And also in there, um, uh, sorry, I'm just reading a note from Ailey. Ailey, actually, yeah, why don't you hop on and talk about the contests we just had? That would be great.
Yeah, so before we get started into our monthly themes, I just wanted to say a huge congratulations and shout out to everybody that participated in our Earth Month Challenge, the hashtag Green Key Global Challenge. We had so many submissions. There was some cute ones, some hilarious ones, and some really innovative ideas. A huge shout out to Pacific Rim for their comedic gold entry, Chateau Laurier for their really innovative entry by creating a cleanup the city challenge, and our winner, which was the Thompson Seattle. Everybody had such great entries and it was such a hard choice, and we encourage everybody to share their initiatives more than just Earth Day. It's such a great thing to show, and it's something that guests can get involved with, and we're really proud to see all these initiatives that hotels have done Earth Day and beyond. Back to you.
Thanks, Ailey. So as I mentioned, our monthly theme, so in line with our continuous efforts to remain leaders in the sustainable tourism sector, we have curated a list of sustainable themes and topics to explore all long. So these themes and topics will guide our discussions, content, and educational resources as we continue to help our members in their sustainability journey. And this month's sustainability theme is carbon neutral pursuit. So now I'd like to hand it over to our guest, Alex from Bullfrog Power, and I'm very excited to announce that Green Key Global is now officially Bullfrog powered. Over to you, Alex.
Hello, everyone. I can't see any of you, but I hope you're all doing well. Good afternoon. Thank you all for making the time to join, and thank you to Green Key Global for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Alex Onwudiwe, and I've been a sales account manager with Bullfrog Power for about 2 years now. In my role, I work predominantly with small to medium businesses with an additional focus on a few key sectors like the hospitality industry. My goal today is to provide you with an introduction to Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, establish a baseline understanding for how they relate to your organizations, and outline some best practices and solutions that already exist for you to deploy in your organization's sustainability journey. As industry professionals, understanding these concepts is crucial for driving sustainability throughout your operations and can also benefit other areas of your business by highlighting and communicating these initiatives you look to take on. Thank you for jumping to the slide. Oh, sorry. Yeah, perfect. I typically don't speak too much about my own background, but given the audience, I thought it might be worth mentioning a little here. I'm actually a longtime hospitality veteran, coming from about 18 years in the food and beverage space before making my transition to a more sustainability-focused career. I've been managing bars and restaurants in Toronto for the majority of that time. And in 2017, it sounds weird to say that out loud, like it's so many more years back now, but started developing zero waste cocktail programs in an attempt to mitigate the immense amount of waste that came from the establishments I worked in, long before I really understood how sustainability could kind of fit into the whole picture. After that, I was dealing with a little bit of an injury that took me out of the industry in 2020, but January, which is very odd timing given everything that happened. But yeah, kind of helped hit the ground running with a lot of different opportunities that came about. And that's kind of how I found my way in Bullfrog. The slide you're looking up at, or the slide you can see on your screen right now, highlights some things that I think everyone here is probably already at least a little bit likely somewhat familiar with. But companies all across all industries are making strides towards their sustainability goals, whether they're in the early stages of developing their targets and plans or working towards these goals through various initiatives. It's clear that there's a long overdue shift taking place, and so much of it starts with learning about what we can do and how do we get there. Slide, please. Right. So for those of you who might not be familiar with us, we are a renewable energy company that's been working in the space for almost 20 years, actually 20 years next year, actually. Bullfrog Power was founded in 2005 with the goal to transform Canada's electricity landscape with the belief that everybody should be able to access green energy. Positioned behind this goal, we became the first company to offer a green electricity choice for businesses and homes across Canada. In the early days, we started with door-to-door canvassing, bringing awareness to how we power our daily lives and the need to shift to more renewable sources such as wind, solar, and low-impact hydro. Through the purchase of RECs, which are renewable energy certificates, sometimes referred to as GECs, which would be green electricity certificates, and RTCs, which are renewable thermal certificates, which we'll get into more later, we ensure that energy is being put onto the grid on our clients' behalf from renewable sources, which is exactly what the new announcement of partnership with Green Key Global is doing with their offices. Last year, we passed the impressive milestone of displacing over 2 million tons of CO2 through our partnerships with over 1,500 businesses and support of over 160 community projects. We are a certified B Corp, CDP accredited provider. We're audited annually, and we have a long-standing partnership with Pembina Institute and WWF. Oh, thank you. Perfect. So, all right, let's dive into this a little bit more. Oh, sorry, we're on next slide. Yes, perfect. All right, we can dive into this a little bit. So the term scope emissions first appeared in the Greenhouse Gas Protocol of 2001, and today scopes are used as the basis for mandatory greenhouse gas reporting. They are broken down into scope 1, 2, and 3, though there is technically a fourth scope that's been introduced that refers to emission reductions that occur outside the value chain and the life cycle of a product. But don't worry, we're not talking about any of that today. Some of you might have seen this image on the screen before. If you've ever gone down a carbon footprint rabbit hole, it's definitely the best diagram that exists. It was shown to me during my postgrad and continues to still be the most accurate depiction of how best we can understand the various scopes and how they apply to our businesses. For scope 1, scope 1 emissions are direct emissions from owned or controlled sources. For the hospitality industry, this typically includes the natural gas burned in kitchens, fuel used to power equipment, and the gasoline consumed for shuttle services and company vehicles that otherwise aren't EV or hybrids. For scope 2 emissions, scope 2 emissions cover indirect emissions from the generation of purchased electricity, steam, heating and cooling consumed by the organization's properties. Although these emissions occur at a distance, they are the result of our energy choices and consumption patterns. I say that very loosely as we don't often have any true control over how our energy is delivered, but hopefully at the end of the session today, you'll hear that you'll see that there are some solutions that exist to address this very point. For scope 3 emissions, I'm going to preface by saying that we will not be doing a deep dive into scope 3 emissions today. It's not only the most complex area to address for an organization, but it also often makes up 70 to 90% plus of its carbon footprint. Scope 3 emissions include all other indirect emissions that occur in a company's value chain, including but not limited to the upstream activities such as purchased goods and services, the transportation and distribution, business travel, employee commuting, as well as downstream activities such as processing of those sold products, use of sold products, end-of-life treatment, and the transportation and distribution on the downstream side of things. While these are also important, we will hold off on a more detailed discussion on this topic for a future webinar. Today, we can focus more directly on what we can influence and steps we can take immediately, which is kind of a great segue and brings us to the next part of the session of what you can do now. When it comes to addressing your carbon footprint, some things to remember are that scope 1 and scope 2 emissions are the emissions that we have the most control over and therefore the most responsibility to manage where and when we can. Companies have this sort of data available to them, which allows them to convert direct purchases of gas and electricity into a value that can be understood and measured as tons of CO2. Depending on the structure of your organization, this information will normally live with procurement or finance or property management, and actually now more regularly in roles dedicated to sustainability. Solutions already exist to help organizations work towards their net zero targets and their scope 1 and 2 emissions. For example, an organization could reach out to Bullfrog Power to displace their electricity and natural gas usage with our green energy solutions. These, again, are areas where organizations tend to have more control over, and in a sense could be considered the low-hanging fruit while still making meaningful impacts along your journey. On the topic of, one more back for perfect. On the topic of low-hanging fruit, this serves well for leading into the next part of the presentation. There are several ways to address these impacts of the source from an energy perspective, including, but of course not limited to, the lighting, LED lights and motion sensors, repairing insulation or leaks, as well as the window films, integrating smart room features where possible. This can include lighting, climate control, or hot water on demand usage. Something that goes hand in hand with these initiatives as well is educating and engaging with your staff as well as your guests. This is not only an opportunity to showcase retrofits and projects, but it also explains that crucial why around what's being done. We all know that we're late to the game and this all needs to be accelerated, but it's also really important to communicate why we're doing this, and it really helps build and bolster that engagement and bring people on board with it, whether it's your guests or your staff and so on that are getting involved and excited about these initiatives. Thank you. All right, so where does that leave us? At Bullfrog Power, we align how we work with our clients by balancing their own goals with the best practices outlined by industry leaders and official guidance like the GHG protocol. Our own approach begins with striving to reduce consumption of fossil fuels and electricity at the source. This kind of circles back to the working within what we have control over. The next step is to replace them with renewable alternatives. This could be through the installation of solar panels or the purchase of RECs, such as green electricity and green natural gas solutions. The next step you'll see on your screen is to offset the remaining unavoidable emissions. That kind of falls under that scope 3 area, meaning we deploy the use of offsets once the first two steps have been addressed to the best of our ability and, of course, within our means. Essentially, this, our honoring the mitigation hierarchy kind of serves as a guide or checklist for where to start and the stages you can progress through when developing your roadmap to your goals. But along the same kind of rhetoric or think about this, we've inserted ourselves as to how we can play a role in this, but this is one of those things that as you do your research, you'll see that there are steps to do this. You don't want to be just essentially buying your way out of things. It's kind of why I mentioned, the retrofits and the things that you can do on site. Obviously, there is a sliding scale of trying to adjust this with your budgets and your goals, but you always want to try to reduce at the source because that will have the longest ROI, return on your investments, and so on. And then you can bridge those gaps with organizations like Bullfrog, for example. Next slide, please. Right. So as you can see, we have several ways in which we help our clients achieve their sustainability goals, more of which will be discussed in future webinars. But for today, we're just going to focus on the renewable energy certificates that we offer, which you'll see kind of in the first column over there. RECs are market-based instruments that are used to address an area of an organization's carbon footprint. Their attributes are measured, matched, audited, and retired, and recognized internationally as a way to mitigate carbon emissions that stem from operational impacts. Excuse me. We offer green electricity and green natural gas solutions, which can be used to address Scope 2 and Scope 1 emissions, respectively. Our green electricity RECs are Eco-Logo and Greenie certified and come from wind, solar, and low-impact hydro projects. They meet the highest standards of RECs available, and its criteria includes things like a strong chain of custody, regionality, and additionality. Strong chain of custody is what kind of allows them to be retired in your organization's name, including included in your reporting and sustainability initiatives. The regionality, meaning that you're sourcing and retiring the RECs from connected grids versus elsewhere overseas. And the additionality aspect, which is a key criteria that we work with across many of our projects and solutions that we try to provide to our clients, means that there's that by supporting the project or activity that reduces greenhouse gases, it would not have happened without the buyer or collective buyers in the market. Next. A key point I'd like to leave you with today is that while you continue to explore ways in which you can make your properties more sustainable and mitigate the impacts we do have control over, keep in mind that it doesn't need to be an all or nothing endeavor. I kind of circle back to this all the time, whether you're working with us or just developing that plan. It's a complex issue that we're all facing, and it's going to take collective efforts to meet those targets. Do your research. Take advantage of resources within your network, kind of like you're all doing here today in this webinar that Green Global's put on. Find solutions that fit your needs and are impactful at the same time. We work with a number of hotels, and we have for many years, to decarbonize their common spaces, for example, kind of touting that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing endeavor. This takes the form of, powering their front lobbies, their fireplaces, restaurants, or meeting rooms, for example. There are so many areas to address under the whole sustainability umbrella. Energy is a big part of it, but it's just one piece. You've got water, you've got waste, and all these different areas, and it can definitely be overwhelming at times. So my advice would be to ask questions, make educated decisions that can help you progress towards your goals and keep one another accountable. And yeah, this slide is just kind of showcasing, very high level, some different areas or reasons why companies choose to work with us. And the last slide is actually just my contact if anyone has any questions or would like to reach out in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much all I had here for you guys today, but open to answer any questions that might come up.
Thank you so much, Alex. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to put them down in the chat. We'll ask Alex to hang around and answer any questions if there's any for them at the end of today's webinar. So I'd like to start first by talking a little bit about who we are, who Green Key Global is. We've been in the sustainability industry for the past 30 years. We were established in 1994 by the Hotel Association of Canada, and we're the only certification created by hoteliers specifically for hoteliers. Green Key Global is a credible leading sustainability certification for hotels and event spaces in North America. And we announced earlier this month that we have partnered with the Hotel Association of Canada and the American Hotel and Lodging Association. They now co-own Green Key Global. So that was an exciting announcement for us at the beginning of the month. I'd also like to point out one of our partners, One Tree Planted. Green Key Global plants a tree for every member with our charity partner, One Tree Planted. And we're very excited to announce that we have planted over 6,100 trees this year. So now I'll talk a bit about the benefits of being a Green Key Global member. Firstly, it helps you increase occupancy. We achieve this by working with a team of online travel agents and business travel agents, ensuring that when you become certified, that your property is properly recognized on their websites as a certified sustainable property. We help you to save money. A lot of the initiatives that you'll undertake at your property for sustainability will have a return on an investment, will actually end up helping you save money over time. We also help you to reduce your carbon footprint. We provide a rigorous audit process. We are low cost compared to our competitors. We're constantly updating our programs to ensure that we're offering the very best in class. We're an easy to use program, and we're GSTC recognized. That's the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. For a full list of benefits, you can scan the QR code. And I should mention that I'll provide all of you with a copy of today's webinar along with a link in case if you missed any part of it and want to review it or share it with anybody. As I mentioned, we work with a large team of online travel agents and business travel agents. This is an example of some of those who we work with. So when you become certified with your eco rating through Green Key Global, we notify these OTAs and BTAs of your success, ensuring that you receive the proper notification on their website as a sustainable property. So let's talk a little bit about the validity of sustainable claims and why they matter. So on one hand, we have things like brand commitments like Marriott and like Hyatt, encouraging all of their properties to become third-party sustainable by a certain time, a certain year. We have corporate sustainability targets, companies such as Pfizer or TD Bank, who are requiring that all of their business travelers stay at sustainable properties. We also have customer preference driving this trend. And all of this, of course, is being driven by both the climate crisis and the global climate agenda. So what this is resulting in is some of the following. For example, 71% want to travel more sustainably over the coming 12 months. 81% of travelers say sustainable travel is important to them. 70% are more likely to choose a sustainable accommodation. And 57% would feel better staying in accommodation with sustainable certification. So now let's take a look at how the process works. So it starts when your property takes a self-assessment. The self-assessment has over 200 questions, and they cover three key areas. Those are environment, society, and economy. And within those areas, we ask questions about the following. We ask questions about energy and water conservation. So that's everything from things like LED light bulbs to aerators on taps or low flow toilets, solid waste and hazardous waste management. So questions about like, do you compost your food waste? Indoor air quality and community outreach. So that might be things like, do guests have access to fresh air from their hotel rooms? Or community outreach questions involve questions about, do you work with local suppliers for the amenities you provide at your property? Building infrastructure and land use, environmental management. We also ask questions about environmental social governance, corporate social responsibility, and regenerative tourism. So all of these questions are then packed into 5 key performance areas of the self-assessment, which correspond to 5 key performance areas at your property. Next slide, please. So they are corporate environmental management, housekeeping, food and beverage operations, conference and meeting facilities, and engineering. So if you are a limited service property and you don't have food and beverage operations or conference and meeting facilities, you can opt out of those sections and the assessment will be weighted so that you won't lose points for opting out of those sections. But if you are a full service property, then you would be expected to complete all 5 areas. And we encourage properties to form a team where possible, comprising of a member of each of these 5 areas of your hotel. So for example, having your director or manager of housekeeping help you complete the housekeeping section of the self-assessment. We find it just makes the process easier to go to the in-house experts that will have a lot of the answers that we're looking for in the self-assessment. So of course, based on the results of the comprehensive environmental self-assessment, lodging facilities are awarded a rating from 1 to 5 keys, with 5 being the highest attainable. So to provide you with an example, a 1 green key property is a hotel that has taken the first steps to reduce environmental impacts by analyzing its operations and identifying opportunities for improvement, where a 5 green keys property is a hotel that exemplifies the highest standards of environmental and social responsibility throughout all areas of operation. But we celebrate all levels of green keys because it just really shows that your property and that you and your team have a commitment to sustainability. So this is what the certification process looks like in an overview. It starts when you register online or when you reactivate or renew your subscription. Then you have access to the latest version, the version 4 of our self-assessment. You'll go into the members area of our website and complete the self-assessment, going through all 5 key areas of the self-assessment. Once you've completed the questions, especially once you've completed the mandatory questions and uploaded the necessary documentation, you then submit your self-assessment. Once you've done so, you'll receive a preliminary system evaluation. This is your preliminary eco rating score between 1 and 5 keys. You'll also receive a score improvement report. The score improvement report will let you know how close you are to obtaining the next highest level of key rating, and will actually provide you an opportunity to go back into the self-assessment and change your answers to try to obtain that higher level of key rating. Once you're happy with your score, it's time to move on to the audit. Our audits are mandatory, and we have 2 types of audits that we offer. The first is a virtual audit. There's a cost of $500 for the virtual audit. The virtual it takes place much the same way we're communicating today, over Teams or over Zoom, where the auditor is on one end of the call and you're at the property and on the other end of the call. You'll guide them through the property, looking at the various areas of your property that correspond to questions you've answered on your assessment. The virtual audit takes approximately 4 hours to complete, or a little longer, depending on the size of your property. The second type of audit that we offer is an on-site audit. The cost for that is $2,500. It includes the cost of travel and accommodation. It takes approximately 6 to 8 hours to complete, a little lengthier just because it's in person, so there tends to be more conversation and walking to get to the various areas to review the property for the audit. Both are equally as rigorous, both result in the same certification, but we recommend that all of our members select the virtual audit because it does have 0 carbon footprint associated with it. And if you are a legacy member, this year you will receive a free virtual audit included with your membership. So once you have selected the type of audit you'd like to have, the final step is requesting your audit. Once you have requested your audit, it will put you into a queue with our audit partners at Control Union. The queue is approximately 90 days before your audit is scheduled, at which time your audit will be performed at a time that works for you and your property and your team. Once the audit takes place, approximately 10 business days following the audit, you'll receive your official eco rating certification. That's your official rating between 1 and 5 keys. You'll receive your official certificate that has your property's name and the year of certification, as well as your certificate ID number. And then once you're certified, the last step is we really recommend that you market your efforts, that you notify and let your guests and future guests know of the accomplishments and the sustainable initiatives that you've undertaken at your hotel. And we provide a lot of tools on our website to help you market those efforts. And we'll talk about those in a little bit. I'd like to thank our MSA partners. If you're part of a brand partnership, you have access to exclusive benefits and unique internal green program alignment to help with the assessment. And this list is growing steadily. It's been really amazing to see the number of brands committed to sustainability for their properties. And so thank you very much to our MSAs. So now time for a process walkthrough. I would like to invite our communications specialist, A. Lee, to take us through this process.
Thank you, Tyler. So for the process, whether you're upgrading to the new version or if you're brand new to Green Key Global and you're looking to get started on your first assessment, I will walk you through how to do this. And it all starts in the members area. So on our Green Key Global website, if you click the members area, you'll be brought to this login area. And if you don't remember your username or password, that is okay. You can either click there, that button to get your password, or you can reach out to one of us and we'll be happy to help get your login information. So once you've logged in, this is what the dashboard looks like. It goes through different areas of tools. So there's some marketing tools, some tools to improve your rating, areas to manage your membership. This is updating your account, updating your username and password, as well as access your certificate. But what you want right now is that first button, which is the complete your Green Key Eco Rating Assessment. So from here, you just click that Get Started button. Now, once you've clicked it, if you've already done the assessment before, your screen will look like this. It'll say welcome back, and you can choose to either view your previous assessment or retake your assessment. Another thing to note here is if you are retaking the assessment, we can send you your progress report from previous assessments so you can see what's already been done at your property and what improvement tips were given in your progress report. So whenever you're ready to start your new assessment, you just click that retake assessment button. And then you'll get a notification saying that the request is being processed. And once it's done processed, there'll be an email sent. And you can then proceed with starting the assessment again. It will likely log you out. So just refresh your page and log back in. And then the next time you click that Get Started button, your screen will look like this. And if you're brand new to Green Key Global or taking it for the first time, this is also how your screen will look when you take the assessment. So from here, there's a really helpful video that walks you through how to take the assessment with some tips and tricks. There's also some helpful documentation above, including how to complete the assessment, who should complete the assessment, and some support. You'll note there's also support all throughout, and we have Tyler here for support if you have any questions throughout. So do not hesitate to reach out at any point. Once you've started the assessment, you'll see you have to write who completed it, what their job title is. This is so that you can keep track and go back and ask any questions if need be. You'll see as well, there's a mandatory blurb on some questions. That means that that question is needed to be answered in order to get your certification. It's also known as our baseline requirements, which is a document that we can send, which goes over what those mandatory questions are. You'll see, especially with those mandatory questions, there's often a pop-out, and that pop-out, which you can see on the screen, has a little speech bubble, which tells you some tips on taking the assessment. So for this question in particular, it's asking if your hotel has a sustainability policy. This is needed in order to be certified, but if you don't have one, it's completely okay. We have a template that you can use to then fill out and create a sustainability policy for your property. Same with the next question, the action plan, we have a template for that. And throughout the assessment, you'll see anytime that there's any hyperlinked in green, that's some help text or a template or just advice on where to find that information. While you're going through, you'll see at the bottom of the page, there's 3 options: always, save progress, submit assessment, and print section. I recommend clicking save progress as often as possible. That way, if you have to close your computer or anything like that, you don't miss out on any of the answers that you've filled out. It also allows you to work on it at multiple computers. So if you're filling it out at one computer and somebody from housekeeping is filling out the housekeeping section from another computer, you can save that progress along the way. So once you've gone through the assessment and answered all the questions and submitted the documentation, you'll then get a self-assessment checklist. This is going to tell you, if anything, what you're missing. So for example, in this case, whoever filled out the housekeeping section forgot to include the name and the job title. As I mentioned before, you do have to include this for each section. So you wouldn't be able to submit the assessment until this has been fixed. So you just go back to that section and fix that. This will also flag if there's a mandatory question that wasn't answered, or if there was a question that required documentation and the documentation wasn't yet submitted. It will flag that so you know what you have to go back and do before you're able to submit the assessment. You don't need to do this all in one step. You can also, if you want, print the self-assessment checklist or download it. And that way you can see what you're still needing, and then you can come back to it when you have the information. So if you're looking for documentation and you're waiting to get that back, you don't have to submit it right now, but just know it does need to be submitted before that audit. So once everything is submitted, your self-assessment checklist has been completely checked off. Your next step is to book the audit. So as Tyler mentioned earlier, there is 2 different options for the audit. There's a virtual audit or there's an on-site audit. You can choose one or the other. We recommend a virtual audit. It's more cost effective and there's no carbon footprint associated with it, as it's all done virtually. This is a brand new offering that we're excited to be able to offer. It's equally as rigorous and it's a little more time efficient, and there's no carbon footprint associated. And as Tyler mentioned, for all of our legacy members, people who have been a member since before, I think it was March 2023, but I'll have to clarify on that. You do get a free virtual audit this year to help streamline the process. Once you've paid for the audit, or if you're a legacy member, you've gotten your $0 invoice, you're ready for the next step, which is to request the audit. To do that, you just go back to the same area on the dashboard that you took the assessment and click that final tab, Request Audit. And then from there, an auditor from our audit partner, Control Union, will be in touch to schedule an audit within 90 to 120 days, although typically we see it on the sooner end. It just depends on how busy they are. So once all of that is done, you've gone through the assessment, you've gotten your audit, within 10 days, you'll get your final certification. So typically this is very similar to that score that you get, your preliminary certification, which is saying where, based on the self-assessment, you'll be sitting. Typically, we see people get similar or even better scores once the audit is done. Once you've received your official score, which is after the audit, you can then go on, download your certificate. This is updated every year. So January 1st of the next year, you'll see your 2025 certificate, and every year thereafter. Now, once you've done your audit, it's valid for 3 years, and within 3 years, you'll have to redo it so that your certification remains active. When you're done your certification, you also have all these tools to your disposal, including marketing tools that Tyler mentioned. We just finalized a marketing toolkit, which involves social media copy, website copy, logo downloads, and more to help promote your certification and talk about sustainability at your property. We're also here to help promote it for you. So if you have any initiatives that you'd like to share, if you want to have a highlight reel of some initiatives, or if you're looking to do something a little more in depth, like a video case study, we're here to help you support that and promote your sustainability efforts. If you just email us at communications@GreenKey Global, we'll be happy to help you out with that, or get in touch with Tyler and he'll connect you with the right team. We also have tools to help improve the rating. So there's departmental checklists that help you be sustainable in every area of your hotel. And on our website, we have a vendor directory that's full of vendors to help with all kinds of different areas, including Bullfrog Power, who we had on earlier today, who talked about the different scopes and emissions. So Bullfrog Power is a really great company to help you figure out your carbon emissions and find ways to reduce them and offset what's left. They're a really great company to work with. There's also other vendors like Incentifind, who helps you find different incentives for projects at your property, or Light & Co., who helps find eco-friendly solutions to your lighting. We have a great list of that, and it's constantly expanding. And if you have any specific questions, you can reach out to us and we can help get you in touch with the right vendor. Back to you, Tyler.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Ailey. So now let's take a look at how Green Key Global has kept the pace with sustainable evolution. So in the first version of our self-assessment, we aligned with 7 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that was in 1994. In the latest iteration of our assessment, the version 4 assessment, we now align with all 17 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which means that when your property becomes eco-rated certified, your property is also aligned with all 17 of these Sustainable Development Goals. So that's really quite an accomplishment for your property. So let's talk about some recent developments. So as we've mentioned, we offer a new rigorous online audit process. So the audits are mandatory and must be completed before certification is granted. We've created user experience improvements. The website and the user area is now more interactive and more intuitive. We've upgraded the self-assessment. We've added new areas, as I mentioned, CSR and ESG, also diversity and community questions. And we're also working on expanding the vendor program. All vendors are now required to sign a mandatory code of conduct, basically assuring us and you that all of the products and services that they offer to our members are indeed sustainable. A few other upcoming benefits that I'd like to mention. First is our payback calendar. This is a calendar to help you decide if making an investment in your property is worth it. It's essentially an ROI calculator, or return on investment calculator. So you enter some information about the type of purchase you'd like to make. For example, a low flow toilet. You enter the information, the quantity, the cost of your water and how much water you use, and it calculates out your return on investment over time. So that's a really handy tool that we'll be launching very shortly. We're just in the pilot phase of that project. We'll also be working on enhancing our education and webinars. Our weekly Wednesday webinar, I should say bi-weekly Wednesday webinar, is part of that process, ensuring that we bring you very relevant and useful information that you can use at your property with actionable items. We're upgrading our meetings program. So some of you may already be members of our meetings and events program, but we're working on upgrades similar to the new version 4 self-assessment eco rating. It will just be a more rigorous, more thorough process to ensure that we're really offering the top of class program. We're working with partners at Aptim to create a corporate dashboard that's currently being piloted. This dashboard will allow brands to see at a glance how their properties are doing, where they're at in assessments, what their eco ratings are, and be able to compare them to similar properties in the area. We're also working on carbon accounting tools and a carbon neutral event certification tool. This is a really exciting tool that we're also piloting. It will allow event planners or your property to certify a specific event as carbon neutral. It's a calculator system, again, where you enter some information about how many people are traveling, where they're traveling from, how many rooms are booked, some information about meals, and it gives you a calculation to how much carbon is being produced by this event, and gives you an opportunity to purchase carbon offsets with our partner at Carbon Zero. And we'll also be announcing later this year some updates about GKG accreditation. So lots going on for sure here at Green Key Global this year. So now I'd like to open it up to any questions. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put them down in the Q&A. Alternatively, you can also reach out to me or reach out to Ailey if you have any questions. We're always happy to help. If you get stuck along the way of the assessment, or if you're looking for a tool or resource that you can't find, by all means, reach out to us. That is what we are here for. So I don't see any questions yet, but do feel free to put them in there. One question I am asked is how long does the certification process, how long does certification last for? So once you're certified, it lasts for 3 years. So for example, if you completed your self-assessment and your audit this year and were awarded certification this year, you wouldn't be required to complete the self-assessment and audit process again until 2027. That being said, membership renews annually. So you renew your membership and every year, but the assessment and audit process is just once every 3 years. Well, wonderful. I'm so glad that all of you took time today out of your busy schedules to join us. On behalf of me, Ailey, and Alex, I'd like to thank you for your time and for joining us. If you do have any questions, by all means, do reach out to us. I will be providing all of you with a copy of today's presentation, along with a link to some really helpful resources. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.